Good morning from sunny and rather cold Belgium. So I realize this is an unusual video because we don't usually do product reviews or anything of the sort, but tonight we're flying from Belgium to Poland on Ryanair, and these guys have very strict luggage requirements, and this required us to downsize. So we're downsizing 2 out of 3 pairs of shoes we own. So we're downsizing Chippy's Vibram FiveFingers, and we're downsizing my Lunas. Both of them have holes in them, as you can see, which kind of inspired me to do this video comparing the two models of the minimalist running shoes. And as a side note, I have to say that a year ago we made a video about how much we love being barefoot, and that was the case then because we have been barefoot 99% of the time in the 2 years preceding that. And right after that video, ironically, we had a couple of small accidents which ended up with pussing wounds. I mean, you don't have that if you're living in cold climates, but if you're in the tropics, a lot of the time you can have wounds that don't heal very well. And at the same time, we wanted to take up running, so we decided to buy ourselves a pair of Vibram FiveFingers V-Run. And in the end, we ended up actually wearing them the majority of the year, not just for running, but wearing them on the motorcycle and for jungle treks and around town. So this gave us a good feel of how these shoes work, not just for running, but for everyday life. And ironically, having lived in shoes for a year, as soon as the little one came, as Leo was born, at first the easiest way to put him to sleep was baby wearing him in a wrap on my chest. So we ended up walking in the rice fields every day for a couple of hours right after he was born. And one day we just looked at our feet and we're like, why are we wearing shoes? Why aren't we getting grounded? And we took the shoes off and we're actually barefoot again. So the shoes thing was good, but the natural fear, the barefoot thing wins. It's a little bit harder now that we're in Europe because it's a little bit cold. So whilst being in Belgium, we actually ended up wearing Simon's parents' shoes. I'm wearing his mom's shoes to go to the forest, and Simon is wearing his dad's shoes when it's cold and wet. But ultimately, I think we're gonna be barefoot as soon as we're in hotter climates. So without further ado, here's a quick review of the Luna Sandals versus the Vibrams. Mwah! Okay, so these were my first minimalist running shoes, and they are Lunas. I bought them, I think, over 4 years ago. I shipped them from Germany to Warsaw before I set out on my never-ending travels. And I don't remember which model it is. I think it is the mono. I remember it was the only vegan model at the time that didn't have leather at the back. So as you can see, they have lasted me 4 years. For 3 years, they were the only shoes I had at all. And I was barefoot a lot of the time. I would say 9% of the time. So I only wore them when the asphalt in the cities was really, really hot, or when there was slippery rocks to be climbed, or really rough gravel. And what happened actually twice, this little bit fell out, but we fixed it with some glue on the underside here, right? There was a little bit here, but nowadays that it's fallen out twice, the bigger problem is that I actually worn the shoe to the sole. So, you know, there's a hole in the sole. That's how much wear and tear they got over the last 4 years. I'm actually proud of that, you know, I was able to, as a woman, just live with one pair of shoes for 4 years, and, you know, that is true minimalism for me. I really, really love these shoes. I have to say I had a really good experience with them. Maybe on the downside, I had to readjust this strap about twice a week because it got loose every now and again, so that could be annoying. But then again, on the upside, they're so easy to put on. And I remember that a big deal about buying these Luna sandals was deciding what thickness of the sole you want. So a lot of people are going like, okay, you want them as thin as possible, like the zero shoes. And then I was like, no, I don't think I want them as thin as possible. So these were actually, the soles were 11 millimeters. when I bought them, and I'm really happy because that meant they actually lasted 4 years, because if they were any thinner, let's say 7 millimeters, that would only be 3 years of wear for me. So yeah, really love these shoes. A huge advantage of these shoes is that you can put them on easily, your leg seems to be breathing in them, and you know, your feet don't stink. When they were like this, they had a really good grip, but then, you know, when I got to wear them a lot, the soles flattened and they became really slippery. So in the last year they were a little bit too slippery, but we love these sandals, and we just ordered a pair for me and a pair for Chippy as a birthday present. We ordered the Leadville Trail, I think that's what it's called. And then here is our Fingers V-Run, and we bought them when I was 2 months pregnant in Singapore. We actually made a huge detour from Malaysia to buy these shoes in Singapore, right? So here's mine, pink ones, and we bought them specifically for running and for walking around in cities and for being on the motorbike. And mine didn't get that much wear because I stopped running when I was 3 months pregnant. It just didn't feel right. Walking was my thing then. So I only run in them for, I think, about a month or two. So they didn't get, you know, that much wear. And then in the cities, I still preferred my Lunas because my feet could breathe, right? Whereas for Chippy, it was his one and only pair of shoes. And we're running twice a week, I would say, on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. In less than a year, he actually wore the soles all the way to the holes like that, just like I did with my Lunas. So they didn't last long. And then, you know, there's like little things there that could be easily fixed with some glue. And yeah, but the problem is they're gone in less than a year. You know, that's kind of disappointing. We were hoping that they would last a little bit longer. And then the downside, the biggest downside with these shoes for me is that if you wear them straight on your feet, they can get a little stinky if you run in them every day. And especially, I mean, not if it's dry, but if you are running in wet terrain and there's puddles of water and then you don't dry them, then they get really stinky, right? And then if you wash them, you actually weaken the shoe. Like all these parts seem less firmly attached to the shoe. So good grip, really good running shoes, but gets a little stinky. So about running with these shoes, it takes quite a skill to run in them. At least for me, I really didn't get into the running with them that much. I had a month when I ran in them, but a lot of the time I would actually trip over this part. So I think I was doing something wrong. They're not too big on me, so that's not the problem. I would just trip on this part a few times, hard enough to scare me from, you know, reaching great speeds while running. While these shoes are really good for barefoot running, right? There's no chance they're gonna slip off, and there's no chance you're gonna trip over them. So for running, I would say these are much better, right? Whereas for everyday life, like, you know, being on a motorbike, walking around, and then even trailing in the jungle, these are much better. So I love them both, but now that we're thinking of going back to just one pair of shoes again, we ordered 2 pairs of Luna sandals. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. There's my Barefoot, and may I add that the best pair of barefoot running shoes is right there. It's a pair of your feet. You don't need anything else. I mean, I'm still to master running barefoot. I haven't done that, but I really enjoy walking barefoot. There's something so sensual about it. Like right now, look at me touching that wet moss. Oh my god, wet soft moss is one of my favorite surfaces to walk on. I have like a whole gallery of my favorite surfaces, and I can remember places from how they felt underneath my toes. Okay, that's enough quirky stuff. See ya! Like this video and subscribe for more content. Ciao! Bye bye! The nature is so lush, right? Like the greens are so vibrant. Wow. Chippy. So after a year in Vibrams, we're barefoot again.
Yeah. It was a sign, right? Your Lunas suddenly were broken.
Yeah.
And my Vibrams had like a huge hole in the bottom.
Basically, both of our shoes became so worn that the soles actually developed holes. We actually wore the shoes to our holes at the same time.
It just feels way better barefoot actually to me.
Yeah?
I don't know, yeah, I like it more. I'm like more relaxed when I'm barefoot.
Me too. I love being barefoot. Especially if you're walking through the jungle or jungly part.